Brittany
Good.
and I together, we're Emerald Vibes. So, since this is going to be recorded, we'll go ahead and say hello to everybody that's watching.
Hello.
We have Tony here, who is the developer of Staticom, which is an amazing innovation. Tony, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Sure, absolutely. I'm actually one of 4 people that developed Staticom. In fact, if you look to my left-hand shoulder, you'll see the other 3. It's myself, my wife Cherie, Ron Iacovetti, and Lourdes Gonzalez. And they actually started this project. They went through history and went back to the original pioneers of ITC, or instrumental transcommunication. And there was a device that was used in Europe long before the spirit boxes were even developed. And it was called direct radio voice. And they literally brought it back to life, brought it into the 21st century. And we went out to the New Jersey area. They invited us out for a 4-day, 4 different mansion tour, which was absolutely exhausting. I think we ended up with like 3 hours of sleep the first night, 2 the next, 1 hour the third, and none on the last one. So it was exhausting. But he was running direct radio voice, and I heard him get full sentence response. And so I went up to him and I said, I don't know exactly what this is or what you're using, but let us join you and let's develop this thing. And they said okay, and direct radio voice then became Staticom. So that's how the process began.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing. So what is the difference between the then and the now for Staticom? How has it developed from that
Sure.
original product?
The whole reason that spirit communication has never been taken seriously is because it used one device, and that device was a radio. And anybody with any logical sense, let alone the scientific community or the academic community, if you're using a radio and then claiming that you're speaking to spirits, it's almost impossible to determine reception from deception. Meaning, you may ask a question and the response that comes through may appear to be an answer, but was it radio? Were you picking up a stray radio wave? It's practically impossible. Well, not impossible. My wife and I built spirit boxes for 12 years.
Okay.
And we have them laying all over the house. But we haven't touched one in over 3 years because of Staticom. They're not even close to the communication value that Staticom has. But that's the biggest concern, is that, scientific community takes one look at it and says, A, you're getting radio. Radio is made to take signals in the atmosphere, RF signals, radio waves, convert them back into either text or music or whatever they're playing at the moment, and spit it out. That's what a radio does. One of the main changes from direct radio voice, which also used a radio, but the difference between direct radio voice and a spirit box is that a spirit box will literally scan up and down the radio stations at different speeds, forward, reverse. But the theory was, behind Frank Sumption's Frank's box, which is basically the spirit box today, was that spirits would take fragments of audio and move them around into their own sentences. Well, first of all, they would have to do that at the speed of light, with no latency, and with every sound available to them at every moment to create that sentence, which physically, from a scientific perspective, isn't possible. So that theory, we believed, was flawed. So then when we were using direct radio voice, because that's how Staticom started, Ron and Lourdes went 30 feet under the ground in a zinc mine, and they had other investigators with them with spirit boxes. Nobody with a spirit box could get any voices, because 30 feet underground is like a Faraday cage, meaning the radio signals can't penetrate that deep. They didn't get any voices. Ron and Lourdes, using direct radio voice, were still able to get voices. So that's when we started thinking, wait, maybe the radio signal, the RF signal isn't needed at all. So then I was doing a live presentation, and I opened up the bag to pull out the World Band radio, and I noticed I had a sleep machine in the bag as well. And the sleep machine had a white noise setting on it, and I thought, wow, I wonder if that would work. Well, instead of normally going home and testing it, I literally hooked it up in front of this live audience, asked a question, and got an answer. And the answer came through. It came through clear. But not only did it come through, the sleep machine only had a 3-second white noise recorded clip on it that would repeat. So if you were listening to it, it would sound like white noise and you wouldn't hear that it was repeating. But when the voice spoke, not only did the voice come through the speaker, but it embedded onto the chip in the white noise machine. So then the response repeated every 3 seconds. So then I thought, okay, RF signal's not needed at all. This is purely white noise. I went out, I recorded fans, air conditioners, running water. I taped mics onto my car to record the white noise sound. I could pull voices from every single one of them. But the problem is that the consistency in the white noise was never at an even level. It fluctuated up and down, which made the voices really hard to extract. So I said to the group, I'm going to go out, I'm going to buy a white noise generator. Bought that. White noise generator has a spectral frequency of 1, meaning every sound the human ear can hear, 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz, is all at the same level. Nothing is higher than anything else. And that worked perfectly. I started asking questions, the voices just came in, and we've had up to a 7-minute conversation back and forth. That's one of the differences, is there's no radio involved. It's pure broadband white noise only. And then the other major difference is we figured out how to slow down live white noise in real time. The problem is that spirits will speak so fast that you can't catch it all. It's faster than any human vocal tract could speak it. It's faster than the human mind can actually hear it and comprehend it. So we figured out how to slow down live white noise in real time, making that speech almost seem natural and audible to our own human hearing.
Wow. That's really impressive.
Thank you.
That you guys honestly were able to break that down and were able to put it into a device and turn it into something. That's amazing. And I feel as time goes on, I feel like people are more open-minded about the possibilities of a spiritual world, and I think each generation has its own different beliefs and understanding, and I feel like people kind of go through an awakening in a way of believing and being open to it. But when you're able to actually have real evidence that makes sense to the circumstance that you're in, there's no disputing it.
Yeah, I mean, we have no one's been able to dispute this yet. Now, could somebody eventually? Don't know. If there is, it's beyond me how this is. We know how we think it's occurring, but because there's more unknown variables on what we call the paranormal side than known variables, we can only work within the variables that we know, and those are principles of science and physics and other elements. But the fact that all the low-hanging fruit from every other device has been pulled away. There's no radio. We're not picking up transmissions from baby monitors, walkie-talkies, CBs. None of that's any longer possible. A white noise generator cannot pull in signals. There's no external mics. It's a closed system. The white noise goes in, gets filtered, and out come the voices. And what we realized how we believe it works. I don't know if you guys ever have experienced what's called direct voice, but if you're in a haunted location, a spirit can actually speak not just on a recorder, but to the point where you can hear it with your own human ear. That's called direct voice. We believe it uses the same principles that Staticom is using. It's using natural white noise in the environment to create the voice to a tone that the human ear can pick up. Well, that's what Staticom does, is it creates that atmosphere at 100%, giving them the ability to speak more than a single word or two, which is what happens on a spirit box. You'll get a yes, a no, but nothing much longer than that. That is because as the spirit box scans through the radio stations, every time you hit a station, they lose their ability to speak. And because it scans so fast, you're hitting radio station after radio station, which cuts off their ability to speak. Staticom does not do that. There is no radio involved. It's pure white noise. And so what happens is the broadband white noise spectrum is 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz. That's every sound the human ear can hear. When they speak, they'll cover a couple of those frequencies, same frequencies in the white noise spectrum. Then what happens is, when they speak, white noise through a process called stochastic resonance, which is used in medical equipment, military stuff, but it's the process of using white noise to make an undetectable signal detectable. So what happens is they speak, they cover a couple of those frequencies, their voice gets raised, but the white noise does not. It stays at its constant level. So then we cut it off at the level of the white noise, leaving only the voice.
Amazing. Okay. I want to put out there for anybody watching, when you say it's a closed system, I mean, that literally means it's nothing like the apps. With apps, like we were talking about before, they have input, right? They unfortunately are not a closed process. So.
They have massive input. They have internet capability, which can give them access to the internet. They have GPS, meaning the program can tell exactly where you are. If you're heading towards a haunted location, they could start spitting out words like, let's say you're going to an old war fort or something. It could start spitting out words like cannon and rifle fire, because it knows. Then any words that are coming out are coming from words already put in. So they're already there. Right. And
like a word bank.
Right. Correct. Exactly. This has none of it.
I wanted to originally ask, how you got into this, but before we go there, I do really want to ask, what type of testing have you done?
Everything under the sun. There's probably not a test that we haven't done. The biggest question that we usually get asked, and we haven't asked them all because there's hundreds of thousands, if not millions of them, but people say, okay, did you ask how the pyramids were built? Did you ask did Atlantis exist? I mean, there are hundreds of millions of questions to ask. We could spend a lifetime just doing that. But Staticom's still in the research stage. But we've tested everything from, and I will only hit a fraction of it, but we tried to determine whether they could see us, and they can. We would hold up objects, they could tell us what we were holding. They could tell us what color shirt we had on. We had people write a word on a piece of paper, not show anybody, and go hide that piece of paper. Then ask the spirit what word's written on it, and sure enough, they can tell us.
Wow. That's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Now, have you found in your asking questions that there's kind of a barrier between the spirit realm and what the information that they're allowing to give you?
Yes, they're, and this is my own personal theory, but I call them universal laws, which means they can't give me information that's going to change my life here and now as I was set forth to be here and to learn from. And the reason we say that, or I say that, is because there's a million questions that you'll hear them just either stop talking, or you can hear them talk amongst themselves, even if they're not speaking to you. And you can hear them say, don't answer that, don't answer them. And they'll literally back away. And then we've also had times that they've come up and stopped whoever was talking and be like, we're done, they're done, no more. So we know there's some rules about what they can give, and we know that for asking for the Powerball numbers 100,000 times, they will not do it. But but the other thing we believe, and it's kind of when you develop something like this, you begin researching it, you have to take a look at what you really believe reality to be. And that was probably one of the hardest things we had to do. But what people call paranormal, we don't believe to be paranormal. We believe it to be just plain normal. This stuff happens all the time. Paranormal activity happens all the time.